So
We jump straight to it here.
I'm ready. Yeah, yeah, I like it. I'll talk about whatever.
Yeah,
Even if I don't know, I'll ramble off something, and then just
yeah.
let someone else correct me. Right? Tell me I'm
I
wrong.
love the tangents. I love just
Yeah.
how, like, for me, that's just I feel like that's me. Like, just go on a tangent, keep chatting. Uh, but yeah, yeah, you just own it. You're like, yep, I'm a tangent man, and that's how it's gonna be.
Because that's how conversations in real life
Yes,
go, right? They
yes,
don't stick to like one path and like
yep.
rigid questions. I remember a long time ago, I was on like a podcast where the guy, it was an automotive podcast, and he like sent me the questions beforehand. And up to that point, I'd done like, I don't know, 150 podcast episodes. And I was so nervous to do his show because he had such like a rigid format that I was like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, what if I mess up? Or what if I take too long to answer or I don't answer enough? And I'm like, oh, I'm never doing this. Like, I hate this,
Yeah,
it felt so inauthentic.
so
So
true.
I don't do that. Some people ask me for, hey, do we have a script? And I'm like, are you bad at talking about yourself?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's all I want to talk about.
Welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast, the place for everything auto detailing in Australia right now. Here's your host, Dale Guthrie.
G'day and welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast. I'm your host, and once again, I'm here with the co-host Joe.
Hey,
Morning,
mate.
mate. How you going?
Good, good. Great to be here again.
Excited for this one?
Oh, this is detailing royalty here. Had to talk to a lot of people to get this guy on. Yeah, do a lot of favors. Nah, no, kidding, kidding.
Yeah,
But it is detailing royalty, that's for sure.
yeah. Detailing podcast royalty. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, this we've always had a bucket list on this podcast. So he was on it as well, so which was pretty cool.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely no stranger to the industry here and abroad, and definitely knows his way around a podcast or two. So enough for me. Let's bring on Jimbo all the way from America.
Woo!
Good
Hey
afternoon.
guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Detailing
It's an honor.
podcast OG.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
No,
it.
it's an honor to have you on. It's always
Yeah.
something we've worked on, and yeah, we thought why not now? So you've had
Love
a
it.
bit going on of late as well, even yeah. So we'll talk about all that. So
Yeah, happy to. Like I told you before, nothing's off limits. So whatever you guys want to talk about, I'll let you guys take the reins, and I'll just try to follow and not go on too many tangents.
yeah.
No limits here.
No
Let's do it.
limits.
Yeah.
Well, probably first of all, if those who've been living under a rock quite a few years now, so what you are the host of the Auto Detailing Podcast, the original detailing podcast.
Yeah.
So how did all that begin and the reason behind it all?
Yeah, so I started detailing, mobile detailing here in Southern California in 2008. And by 2012, I was getting pretty burnout. 2012, 2013, I was getting pretty burnout on just the monotony that detailing can become, especially the type of detailing that I was doing. And I was looking for other avenues to make money. Detailing, I always knew I wanted to own my own business, and detailing just happened to be the first business that I started, and I kind of just ran with it. And then by 2014, I was like the iPhone, I had gotten an iPhone. And so like audiobooks and apps and podcasts were kind of taking up a lot of my time because I was like, wow, this is cool. I could detail a car and I can learn stuff at the same time. And so I felt like I was being paid to learn, which was really cool and totally shifted my perspective that I had on detailing in that time where I was getting kind of bored with it, to be honest.
Mm.
And so I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and these guys were a couple of the podcasts I was listening to. They had these things called income reports where they were sharing how much money how much revenue they were generating from their podcast. And it was massive. It was a couple $100,000 a month.
Wow. Wow.
And I was like, wow, exactly. Right. Like that's huge. And so if I could even do like 10% of that, that'd be great. Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I was talking to a guy one day, this guy, Pete, that I still work with today. And I'm like, man, I really want to start a podcast. I think that's like the next thing to like make some money, but I don't know what I would talk about. And he looked at me like, are you crazy? Like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, you know? And I'm like, what? He's like, why don't you just talk about detailing? And I was like, well, because I'm burnt out. I'm kind of looking for what's next. And I don't really want to talk about detailing, you know? And he's like, yeah, but by that point, I'd been detailing for 6 years. He's like, dude, I used to do a lot of fleet cars and office buildings and stuff like that. And so I was doing, I had done literally thousands of cars up to that time. And he's like, you probably know everything there is to know about detailing. And I'm like, well, yeah, but again, I want to get out of this, you know?
Mm.
And so detailing has had a funny, here's my first tangent, had a funny theme in my life of every time I try to get out of it, it pulls me in deeper. And this is like that first example of that. And so I was like, shoot, yeah, I'll start a podcast about detailing, I guess, and I'll just talk about what I'm doing, and what's going on. So in 2014, like late July, first week of August, 2014, I started the auto detailing podcast. And yeah, just started talking to people, started doing daily detail tips, started just talking about detailing. And it really, I never made that couple $100,000 a month or even 10% of that. Still waiting for that part 10 years later. But what it has done is it's given me a lot of access behind the scenes to things. And then obviously introduced me to cool people like both of you, that I wouldn't have known otherwise,
Well, that's how I
So
met you, through your podcast. But you have like, and like it's going to sound funny, but can you tell us, just, we haven't prepped you for this, like who are the people, some people that majority of details would know? Because you have been able to talk to like the best of the best, you
mm-hmm,
know. Like
mm-hmm.
I remember one really good one was oh man, like the original owner of Maguire's.
Yeah, Barry
Barry
Maguire.
Maguire.
Yep. Yep.
Like that is insane. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we can all say what we think about Maguire's, but he is the OG Barry Maguire,
Mm-hmm.
like you can't
Mm-hmm.
get much better than that.
And that was so cool because Maguire's headquarters is like 30 minutes from my house.
Yes.
And so Jason Rose was working there at the time, and I'd
Yep.
had done a couple episodes with Jason Rose and had some really good episodes. And I was coming up on episode 100. And I reached out to Jason. And I said, man, I think like a dream guest would be to get Barry on the show for episode 100. Like that'd be amazing. And it took a couple weeks, but then they got back to me and they're like, hey, Barry will sit down with you for an hour in his office here at Maguire's headquarters. And you can interview him. And so that was great. Adam Patali, who founded Adam's Polishes. I met up with him at Pebble Beach Concourse Show, which is a really famous concourse show. That was cool. We sat outside the Bentley House and did an interview. That was amazing. Gosh, it's embarrassing to say, but I've probably forgotten more people than like I can remember. Rennie Doyle, people will know him.
Yep.
Basically anyone who's anybody or even remotely close
Even
to
Lake
anybody.
Country? Did you ever go to Lake Country?
I never,
Like
I
the
don't
pad
think
manufacturer?
I did go to Buff and Shine. So Buff and Shine,
sorry.
I've interviewed Rich,
Yep.
who's started Buff and Shine. I've interviewed Justin Labato a couple times at SEMA. I've interviewed Nick Griot from Griot's Garage at their facility, which was cool.
Shine Supply.
Shine Supply, Jeremy
Yeah.
with Shine Supply. I think I've had on at least once, maybe. I think at least once.
And our Aussie, Matty Gibb.
Matty Gibb.
Oh yeah, yes, OG.
Matt Gibb,
Australian royalty right there.
Yes, he was. So shout out to Matt Gibb, because back in 2014, it was hard to get people on a podcast. Like people didn't really know what it was, and they just were very hesitant to do it. Especially I had like 3 episodes, right? And I was searching online for like other detailing podcasts, because I thought maybe if people had already been on a podcast, they'd be more willing to come on a podcast. And I found Matt Gibb's name in some like Reddit forum somewhere, and he was talking about paint polishing. And I'm like, you know what?
Some old archive.
He's totally old, right? And I'm like, well, but I read what he was saying
somewhere.
yeah, exactly. And so I reached out to him. I think I found him on like Facebook or something. And I reached out and I said, hey, would you want to come on the podcast? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And shoot, him and I have done, I don't know, half a dozen podcast episodes together. He was the one that taught me about denim pads and polishing with denim.
I remember that
crazy
podcast.
Stuff.
I remember where I was driving. I remember listening to that podcast and just being blown away. And that was my introduction to Matty Gibb and you at the same time.
Yep. He's a good guy.
Really cool. Really, really cool.
Yeah. So a ton of people. John with Forensic Detailing, just had him on
Yes,
recently.
yeah,
I had Scott with Dallas Paint Correction back in the day when he was hot. Had
yep,
Pan the Organizer. I was his
yes,
first
yep.
podcast. Um, gosh, I interviewed the guys at Jay Leno's garage and met Jay Leno. Um, yeah, it's just opened up a ton of doors. So it's been very cool, very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really cool. That's a really great
Yeah.
feat. Like, that's that's one bucket list right there.
Mm.
Yeah, it's been cool, and as I got more episodes, people became more receptive, and then now people, they want to be on the show, so it's a little bit
Mm,
of a different dynamic where I have to kind of filter people sometimes,
yeah.
because I want to bring value to other people that are
Mm,
listening. I mean, people are spending their time to listen to this. I don't want to give them kind of a crappy show. I want to give them value and entertainment and all that, and so that's becoming a new kind of interesting thing to filter people, or try to.
yeah, I bet. Yeah. And then you probably got people who are begging to come on. Do you have people saying, come on?
Yeah, which I'm really bad
Which
at
is
saying
great.
no. It's
Oh, yeah, yeah,
great.
yeah.
I'm really bad at saying no, but what has happened in the past and recently and kind of all through the years is like someone who's real gung ho, and I try to filter them out, and then like as soon as we hit that record button, they forget everything. Right. And 10 minutes into recording, I'm like, dude, like you got nothing. You froze up on me,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I hate to like use like a social media number to like filter people, but sometimes that is part of the equation of like, hey, I don't want to only interview people that have followings, because that's not that exciting for me either, and
Mm,
that doesn't always tell the full story. But I definitely have started to take it into consideration of like, hey, I'm going to spend an hour or 2 hours of my time just sitting down with you, right? And then I got to have it edited and recorded, and put everything that you guys know goes into it. I need to make sure that this is going to be a good interview.
yeah.
This can't be a waste of time. And then what if I don't post it, or I can't post it because they said something stupid, or they just said something that's really naive and not true, maybe, or, there's a whole host of things that happen.
Can you, Dale and I really want to get a rundown of, like, you've done a lot over the years. Like, you've had your detailing in a circle, I think it is,
Yep.
the
Yep.
business coaching. Like, you've
Mm-hmm.
been mobile. You've got the podcast. You're doing your YouTube, your torture testing. I love
Mm.
that series. Can you give us
Mm-hmm.
a run through of like what you've done? Because you're not just podcasting. You're not just sitting back podcasting. You've done a lot of detailing. You've done the hard yards. Like, can you just give us a bit of a timeline of what you've been doing over the years, and then what you transitioned into, what you transitioned out of, and stuff like that?
Sure. So basically, 2008 up until 2014, I was just strictly a one man mobile detailer. And in that time, I tried to hire employees. I tried to get accounts and stick people at, business accounts. And I really tried to grow my detailing business. And I realized that growing a mobile detailing business just wasn't for me. People were flaky. It just wasn't what I was about. And then when I started the podcast, I really started to dive into this like online marketing thing. And I realized that, and a big driver to the podcast was that, contrary to my physical detailing business, that was, if I got sick, I wasn't making money. If the weather was bad, I wasn't making money. It was kind of seasonal. Even in Southern California, it was somewhat seasonal during the winter months, or unpredictable in the winter months, right? And so and it was very hyper local. It was, a 20-mile radius basically, right? And so I really wanted to branch out from that and have a much bigger audience, or a much bigger,
Mm,
network, a much bigger pool to be able to pull from, right? And so the podcast gave me that. It also gave me access to people. And so in 2016, I been doing the podcast for 2 years. I was approached by a chemical manufacturer that wanted me to work behind the scenes for them. And so in 2016, I started doing that, and that opened my eyes to the whole dark side of the detailing industry, right? And how I say, how the sausage is made, right? And so that was very eye opening to me then. So that kind of was another transition in my detailing life or career, I guess. And so, I went all in on this like behind the scenes of how to make product, right? How to make the sausage. And that though had a really negative effect on me because I saw it for what it was, and I saw how these people really act. And one thing when I was starting online was I'm not good at faking stuff. I'm not good at lying about stuff. I'm not good at like crafting an image of myself or a caricature of myself. Like who I am right now is who I'd be in person, right? I don't fake it. I can't fake it. I'm allergic to that, right? But what I learned is a lot of people are very good at that. A lot of people are very good on camera, very good at faking it. And as soon as the camera's turned off, like they're just jerks, right? They're just bad people, right? And so I got really jaded for a long time. And but 2016, I started working for a chemical manufacturer local to me. And then in 2018, 2019, I was doing those torture test videos because I was trying to figure out, how to get more views on my YouTube channel, how to increase my reach. And I started talking about turtle wax products because no one was, and they actually were really good. And so inevitably turtle wax came calling, and I did some consulting for them, which made me I walked away from that initial chemical manufacturer, found another chemical manufacturer, started doing private labeling for other people, because I thought, man, if this company that's making the sausage, they're just jerks. They're like terrible people, really, at the core, and they lie to their own customers, which is so weird. And then they have crappy products. Like, this is so bizarre, right? Like, this is so weird. And then they got to craft all these stories and lies, and then remember the lies. And it's just like, oh my, this ginormous,
what kind of lies? Like what was going on?
So a perfect example was ceramic soap, ceramic car wash soap, right?
Yes.
So when ceramic car wash soap, the blender I worked for launched the first ceramic car wash soap in the detailing industry, right? And they had the big guys chasing them, Meguiar's, Turtle Wax. And the one thing that the manufacturer that I worked at could do that the big guys couldn't do was make the soap foam. It did not foam at all. So if you remember Meguiar's, even up until recently, they had a double canister, at least in the States, they had a double canister foam or soap, where if you wanted foam, you had to add it separately because everyone was thinking that ceramic soap meant there was ceramic in the soap.
Of course.
Which is very logical, right?
Yes.
The chemical manufacturer, what they were doing was they were just taking an all-purpose cleaner and thickening it up a little bit. And it was a really effective cleaning soap because it was just an all-purpose cleaner. And they said, no. There's no ceramic in the soap. It's just safe for ceramic coated surfaces. And it was like, okay. Like, that was one of them, right? Another one is there's still products that are sold on Amazon today. I still see the brands and they claim high SiO2 content in their products. Our products suck because we have the most SiO2 content out of any product out there. And the truth is, I know that product and it's a spray wax, right? And I could pay to get it reverse engineered and call the guy out on his lies and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, he probably doesn't know because that's what he's being fed from the manufacturer. Right. And so he's never reverse engineered his own product. He just believes what the manufacturers told him. And what the manufacturers told him is that there's, a crazy amount of SiO2 that is, to anyone who knows anything about chemical manufacturing, is literally impossible to make a product with that high amount of SiO2 actually work in the real world. Right. Wow. And so I don't blame the brand owner. I blame the manufacturer that's supplying him. Right. And so that's another lie too. They just go on and on and on. It's just, but it jades you a little bit, it makes you a little skeptical.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And definitely in your background of working with a manufacturer in the background has given you all these sort of ideas on how products are made as well. So you actually
exactly
inside knowledge and
exactly. And then as of like a year ago, I decided my consulting gig with Turtle Wax, I was on their global innovation team for a long time. So I worked at developing products, strategizing new products, launching new products on a global scale with a team, which was really insightful and very interesting to do, and learned the corporate America
side of things. Can you help us understand how big Turtle Wax is? Because we see it in Australia, And what do you reckon? Like, there is a stigma of like, oh, that's turtle wax. Like,
It's
you
Turtle
know,
Wax, Maguire's, all them sort of
yeah, like turtle
Mhm.
wax is
Armor
below
All.
Maguire's, you know.
Yes.
But now I feel like they're on par. Like with retail, they look like they're on par, or they're trying to be, you know. It's like Maguire's was the Toyota, and now everyone
Mhm.
else has risen to that. But yeah, give us a rundown. What was it like at the Turtle Wax
It's
headquarters?
it's a lot smaller than you think, and a lot of
Okay.
these companies are a lot smaller than you think. The thing that Turtle Wax has going for itself is it's very recognizable. Like their
Mm,
brand, everyone has a Turtle Wax story. Now that's a good thing, but that's also a bad thing because they had the stigma as being the cheap brand. So
yes.
everyone expects them to be the cheap brand. So it's very interesting because they have a lot going for them and then they have a lot going against them, right? And
Mm,
so they're a lot smaller than you think because these brands can actually run very nimble. You know, you could be very small. You could be, I think I don't know. They have maybe 100 employees in the U.S. You know, it's not that big of an
yeah.
operation. Um, but it doesn't really take, they have outsourced manufacturing and
Yeah.
fulfillment partners and stuff like that. So, they could leverage other people, other companies to kind of partner with them a lot, which
Mm,
helps with that, especially when you're dealing on a global scale,
yeah.
and so distributors, stuff like that. But the stigma, their biggest uphill battle was everyone knew them as the cheap brand. So when I came along in 2019, they had showed me the hybrid solutions line, which was kind of
Mm,
their next evolution of trying to get out of that stigma of being a cheap brand, right? Try to reach that McGuire's esque level
yes.
where, McGuire's looks very nice, very sleek, very, pretty much anyone will buy anything that McGuire's puts at any price point, and they
Yeah.
automatically think it's a quality product, right? Which I have my opinions on that. But so
Yep.
Turtle Wax was kind of aiming for that, right? And so, but what has, in my opinion, and I haven't worked there for over a year, so
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like internally anymore. But for me, what I've noticed is Turtle Wax was on this upward trajectory. They did this influencer event in 2019 or early 2020. They launched their hybrid solutions. And then they like hit a peak and then they just started to come back down. And it seems to me, I don't know this, but it seems to me like their comfort spot is that like opening tier price point,
Yeah.
cheaper product. And they just, that is so ingrained in their DNA, and it's like their cozy spot, and they just have a
The
really difficult time.
profitable spot.
Profitable spot, maybe,
I
but
don't
the way I
know.
look at it, it's like their tin of wax is like $4, right? It's like there's only so many dollars in $4. You gotta,
Yeah. It's
get it
true.
to Walmart or whatever. And they've tried to increase, they've tried to, add new products, their flex
Mm,
wax, their one and done. But another problem that they ran into was they started to cannibalize themselves. So they had like the ice spray wax and the
mm.
seal and shine, which was really good, right? I did a lot of videos on those products.
Smear and shine.
Smear and shine, very streaky, right? I try to tell them all the
Streak
time, you
and
guys
shine.
could
Yeah, yeah.
streak and shine. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But then they released the ceramic spray coating, then they released flex wax, and then it's like smear and shine's $5.
Yeah.
Why would I buy the ceramic spray coating for 15? Like, is it that much better? And so it created kind of confusion in the market for their own
Mm,
brand, and then cannibalism. They started to like eat their own products essentially because it's like, well, they're just buying seal and shine, they're not buying the new wax. And then it was like, what do we do? And then it was
yeah.
like, if your consumer doesn't know what to do, they just don't do anything,
Yeah.
right? And so I've tried to take all these insights, and then last year I started my own brand, because I had all the pieces of the puzzle. I had seen this industry from every angle. I'd seen everyone test products on the back end. I'd seen retail numbers. I'd seen people try to launch professional brands and how that goes, and people launch retail brands and Amazon only brands and Facebook ad brands, and I'd seen it all. I've literally seen it all, and I'm like, I think it's time to just do my own thing. you know so that's where I've been.
Wow. And
No.
detailing though, have you been detailing a lot on the side, or what does that look like?
Not as much anymore. Definitely not as much since I started my own brand. I think a lot of that to do with I took the website that was my detailing website and
Right.
made it my product brand website. And so I think when like local people find it and they're like, "Oh, this is a product brand. This isn't like an actual detailer." So over the past year, it's really slowed down. And really, my focus, my like long term focus, is on growing the brand, not growing the detailing business. And so once I realized that I had no passion to grow my actual detailing business, I just kind of let it run its course and do its thing. So it's down to maybe a couple cars a week. And it's mainly just to get cars into product tests or old customers or anything like that. But it's really not a focus at all. It's just it's become like my nice side hustle, I guess you could say, you know.
Uh, People listening, jump on and go to jimbosdetailing.com. Your product range looks so cool. Like it is,
Thank you.
I love it. It's just, it's
Thank
like
you.
I don't know. I love the little picture of you.
The little
It's
character.
so cool. And the sunnies, because
Yeah.
I remember you would do your outside videos, have your sunnies on,
Yes.
and you'd see the GoPro reflecting in it. Like
Yes.
that's
Yep,
that's sick.
exactly. And that's what I really wanted. I really learned through working with these other brands is that, the brand is so important. And sometimes the brand can help carry you through the slow times or the brand, like
Mm,
we just talked about with Turtle Wax, right? Like if your brand is built on being a cheap brand, I would call it cheap products, not that the quality is bad. It's just the price point is cheap, like that becomes your brand's DNA. And then trying to
yeah.
break out of that is very difficult. And on the flip side, you have McGuire's, which is a very elegant looking brand, right? And they own that, and everything about their brand kind of points to that. And so, creating a brand that kind of emulated what I wanted to do currently, but also in the future, and gave some opportunities. And that's why we have like the character, and the character is different on every product. Like it's building up a brand story, it's building up a brand identity, and it's giving me options for the future. Those characters can come off the label and do other things. And really, my focus is on building that brand that people can connect with and enjoy, and it looks cool on the shelf, right? And it's different than what's out
Nice.
there. I don't put like Photoshop pictures of cars and like water beading on a car or like everyone else does, right? It's a very different
Yes.
look, and that's very intentional, to stand out.
What was the process on trying to start your own line of products? You obviously knew a fair bit about how to produce one, but what was your sort
Mm-hmm.
of first one and the reason behind it all?
Yeah. So I saw the most successful brands that I worked with started with a very small product range, one or two products, and they had what I called like a hero product. It was like their hero SKU, the one that kind of was, the all-star in the cast. And I saw that if they had a small range, small product line, they could really dedicate time to like inform people about the product and tell people about the product, and their customers would be very clear on what that product did, and therefore they had great results. So I knew that I wasn't going to launch with like 15 different products, because it like it's the telltale sign that the person starting the brand has no experience doing what they're doing. If any brand starts with like 15 or 20 products, that is a telltale sign that they have no idea what they're doing and they're just being fed crap,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Because there's no way you can, you know, there's no way that you can just be a YouTuber, not have any manufacturing experience, and launch 15 products. It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
You can, because the manufacturer wants to feed you. Look, if you come to me
Yeah.
for private labeling and you're going to say, hey, you're going to take 15 SKUs, I'm thinking, holy crap. All right, let's go. Like, that's great, right? But I knew from working with other brands that was kind of a not the most, not the way I wanted to go, right? So I really wanted to start with just one product, which was the Pure Magic Cleaner, which is an acid-based cleaner, because the detailing industry has gotten so soft with all these all-purpose cleaners that don't do anything. You got to scrub the wheel forever. They're just stupid products, right? And yeah, so I'm like, man, an acid-based product is like the most effective cleaner. It replaces so many other products, and I thought that would be my hero SKU. And so Pure Magic Cleaner was going to be my first hero SKU, right? And it was different, and I knew people would, love it. But my wife was like, "Wait, don't you have a ceramic spray? And aren't ceramic sprays like everyone's hero SKU right now? Are you sure you don't want to add a ceramic spray?" And so it was a total last minute decision. But when I launched with Toughest Shell, which was a different name. But then, my friends in green didn't like that. So I got a little letter from their attorney and had to change that to Toughest Shell. So Pure Magic Cleaner and Toughest Shell were the two products that I launched with and had a phenomenal launch. And then since then, I've really worked at trying to show how the sausage is made because I'm not good at faking stuff. So I'd rather just
Mm.
like talk about what I'm working on and show what I'm working on versus like trying to keep it all secretive and then all of a sudden have this launch for a product. I'm like, I'd rather just show you guys what I'm doing, and then put it out to the audience to like, hey, do you like a orange color soap or a blue color soap? Do you like a interior cleaner that has heavy foam or not a lot of foam? Do you like yeah, like what do you
Yeah.
like? Or I put it out to the audience, and I'm doing the same thing right now with the polish and compound that I'm working on, right? And so trying to figure out ways that I could showcase my experience and my abilities and in ways that others can't because they just don't have the access to do that, you know. So yeah,
You're big on the one-step polish at the moment.
I am big on that. So that what I've had to do is like it takes all my attention. So like even my mom was like, "Hey, what product are you going to work on next?" And I'm like, "I have no idea because I'm so in the trenches with like this polish and I'm working with Tom who's a master formulator and I used this product way back in 2009 and then he had some personal problems come and blah 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 blah. But like so there's like a ton of history with me using his product and not knowing him way back in 2009 when I was like starting detailing. And then through the podcast, he reached out to come on the podcast. And so we kind of met through that. And then I was like, hey, I had this idea of like maybe doing a polish. Would you want to do it for me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, could we show it? And he's like, yeah. And then it's just like the wealth and knowledge that this guy has and like
Mm.
the things that he says as we're doing these videos. I'm just like, why has no one said that before? I'll give you, if we got a sec, I'll give you one.
Hmm.
I was just reviewing a video that got sent to me from my video editor, and it's Tom talking about how a cheap solvent in a polish or a compound actually swells and heats up the paint and creates marring in the paint.
Yeah.
So when you which I'd never heard before. I'm like, why does
Yep.
no one talk about the quality of this? Maybe they do and I'm too dumb, right? I don't know. But I'm like, everyone talks about don't generate heat. And it's like they don't want you generating extra heat with the machine because the solvent that they're using in the product is actually softening the paint.
Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, like that to me is like insane,
Mm.
and no one talks about that. Like, why does no
Yeah.
one talk about it? So yeah, I'm in the weeds to answer your question. Way in the weeds, you know.
No, that's fine. Did you do much funny thing about torture testing? Did you obviously torture test the shit out of your products?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that was even on the like product page. It's like, yes, it passes the torture test. And in fact, the launch video for that product, Toughest Shell, was a torture test, right? Because that
That's
was
cool.
my way of getting out in front of it, being transparent, being honest. And yeah, what's come of that has been interesting of people lying to showcase my product in a bad light with ulterior motives, which has been interesting. And kind of the next evolution of what I'm doing is kind of changing my messaging. And so walking away from the torture test because that brings just a bunch of heat and a bunch
Oh
of
yeah.
lies, honestly. And so my next evolution is kind of ignoring that and walking away from that and just focusing on kind of my brand, my thing, how I do it, and showcasing that. And so
It's a
yeah,
two-edged sword. Like
it is.
when you do talk, like I would get excited because I'll be like, oh, because I got no affiliation to any of the products you'd be using, and be like, man, I'm so keen to see what happens here. Like which sealant holds out, the $4 one, the cheap versus
Right.
expensive. Like that was gold, but at
Hmm.
the same time, someone's going to get really offended and emotional about
Yeah.
it. And that's
Yeah.
not you're not out there to personally attack someone, but it's like we're just exposing the truth in your particular setting, your environment, your circumstances when you're testing those products. And some of those cheap products were the same or nearly as good, or sometimes even better than the expensive product. Like, what was your experiences Like, what were you blown away with the most? You don't have to name the exact products, but there was any cases where you tested a ceramic coating or a whatever it was, like a wax where just something blew you out of the water that you were just really impressed
I
about?
think
Do
it
you
was, I
remember?
think I do. I think, there's been a lot over the years, and totally to your point, it's a double-edged sword because that whole series came out of wanting to help people, of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, I have no affiliation with anyone. I'm
Mm,
just here to question, is a $75 wax any better than a $15 wax? That's
mm,
it. Like, that's my I didn't have any, hidden motive. I didn't have anything. And I think the very first one I did was ice spray wax, turtle wax, ice spray wax
mm,
versus a griot spray wax, right? And the ice spray wax, arguably turtle wax best product in my opinion, like blew it out of the water by a long shot and was like half the
mm.
price. And I remember being so surprised, like, oh my gosh, like that's so crazy that like you would think a more expensive product would be better, and it's
Yeah.
just so wild to me because I'd seen by that point I'd been behind the scenes, enough with the chemical manufacturers to realize like, hey, you can literally decide if you want to put a cheap solvent in this, just like Tom, right? Same today. Do you want to put a cheap solvent or an expensive solvent? And the expensive solvent is going to raise your product cost $2 a bottle. And 99% of the time, the brand will pick for the cheap solvent, and they'll create a
Mm,
marketing plan around why that, don't use heat, don't use pressure, and because that's how you polish. All the while they know it's because they picked the cheap solvent, right? And so I would, find out a lot of that later, but the premise was just like, hey, I just want to see if this is worth it so that you guys, the watchers, can make the decision. What I didn't, or what I underestimated, was that it does piss a lot of people off, and it pisses a lot of brands off, and it piss because they have an agenda,
I was going to
right?
ask that. Yep.
Yeah, the brands get pissed off, and I used to be bullish on it, and I think I got called out one time from like I think Gion or CarPro or someone called me out one time, and they sent me an email, and I literally did a rebuttal video reading the email and redoing the test, and I was right. Like, I was
yeah.
right. They were wrong. However, at the end of the day, I was still wrong, in the wrong. People
Yeah.
felt like I was in the wrong, right? And so that's why current day I've kind of really walked back from that, because I'm like, one, I don't want to waste money on attorney fees. No one
Yes.
wins in an attorney battle. And
Yeah.
two, it brings in people that like will act like my friend and act like they like me, and then the next thing I know, they're putting out a YouTube video for
They got their own
clicks,
agenda.
and they
Mm,
got their own agenda that I don't know about because I'm not privy to their private conversations.
far out.
And all of a sudden it's like they're bashing my brand and testing it unfairly. And I'm like, I just need I don't need to do that. I don't need to stoop to the level of these people that don't have the same resources and access that I do. I could just go out there and make the ultimate products and show them how I'm making them. And the consumer and the people that I'm going after, that I want to be my customers, will see that and value that and then purchase the products because of that, you know?
Mm,
And that's what I'm current day. That's what I'm really focused on, is just that I want to make, quote unquote, the best products possible that are possible in the realm of what I think is possible. And, ultimately, product cost is not that much, right? So I think also too, consumers are willing to pay $1 or two more per bottle for something that's like 1,000 times better. I
yeah.
just hold that opinion. And so if it's true, right? If it is
Yeah.
truly better. And so that's what I set out to do. Yeah.
No, I think it was good. Like, from someone who's from, it feels like a different planet sometimes here in Australia. Like, I just remember those key videos where you are literally at the front of your house, the birds
Yep.
are chirping, there's a few F trucks driving past. Like, you couldn't get any more California than that, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
and it was just, you weren't in a fancy detailing shop. Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
as real and authentic as you could possibly get. Because if you were faking it, then man, you were pulling some strings to hide your
Right.
bias. But end of the
And I
day,
wasn't, because I'm not that good, right?
yeah.
I'm not that smart to like fake it that good. I could
And
never
this
keep.
is
Yeah.
yeah, and this was like 2016,
Mm-hmm.
2017, I think, are like the ones that I
Yeah.
remember.
Yep.
But yeah, this compound, this polish, it kind of sounds like it's nearly too good to be true. Can you explain about what kind of polish you're trying to create? Not a compound, sorry, we don't use that word anymore. I believe
I
from the.
guess I still struggle.
Can you give us some good context to what you want to achieve for the listeners?
Yeah. So back in 2009, Tom had a product brand called System One. And if
Who's Tom?
Tom is the formulator, the chemist behind the polish, right? So for the first time, I work with a couple different chemists and I keep them all behind the scenes, right? And for the first time, because Tom currently has his own product brand as well, and he's a formulator, chemist, whatever you want to call it, and he can speak well on camera. It's like, and he's willing to be on camera. It's like, hey, like, I'm just going to show the chemist. I'm going to show the formulator. I'm going to show him, right? Instead of keeping him behind the scenes, because why not? He could talk to the camera. He's got all this great information. Anyway, so back in 2009, Tom had a product called System One. And System One was a one liquid system with a double-sided rotary pad. It was foam on one side and wool on the other. If you remember anything about early detailing days, like everything was 3 steps. It was like heavy cut, medium cut, glaze, or finish. Every 3 different pads, 3 different products. And I was like, wow, one liquid with basically one pad that's just double-sided. Like, that's amazing, and the product actually was really good, right?
Yeah.
And then he had some personal problems come and the product ended up going away, but McGuire's came out with a product called Solo One back in 2010-ish. Then they came out with their microfiber system and that was called D300. And it was all a shot at the product Tom had created in System One, right? And now we have 3D One.
Yeah.
Right. We have all these one steps and stuff like that. And it really all originated from Tom, right?
Yeah.
It was his idea. And so my thought is that I like 3D One is I like it, right? It's my go-to product. I think it works in the vast majority of situations. I get it in a lot of situations it doesn't work, but in the vast majority of situations it works perfect, right? And so I never wanted to create a polish or a compound because I was satisfied with 3D One. And why would I do that? And then Tom came around and we did a podcast and he's like, well, yeah, but he started talking about the solvents and the aluminum oxide and the abrasives and this and that. And I'm like, man, I think we could actually make something better, and the holy grail would be, this one liquid with one pad for the majority of situations. Right. That is what I'm going after. And what I want is defect removal. I want workability. I want you to be able to use it in the sun if you're a mobile detailer. And I want the wipe off to be really good. And then Tom, was like, hey, you can actually ceramic coat right over this finish because it's a true finish. You don't need an IPA wipe. You don't need a panel prep. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, why doesn't anyone talk about that? Right. And so I'm kind of going after this unicorn of a product for the vast majority of situations, not every situation, right?
Yes,
but I want it to be able to work on a rotary with wool if you need like super heavy defect removal, right? And then can you leave it on the surface and then just switch to a finish pad and finish out the rotary marks? And so that's what we're aiming to accomplish, is just a no dust, great workability, great wipe off, a non-smelling, non-crappy ingredient polish, so
that's one unicorn.
It's a unicorn. It totally is. And I told Tom, because I use this current product line, I'm like, it cuts good, it finishes good, but it dusts really bad. And he's like, oh, I don't know if I could get it to not dust. And I'm like, it absolutely has to not dust, like if we're going to go down this route. But what I told him is I want to start recording videos, and look, if we get to a place where you can't make the product, that's okay, because I will show that too, of like, hey, we went down this route and for whatever reason, the technology is just not there. We can't accomplish it, and that's okay. And so I won't launch a product after doing 6 videos on it if we couldn't get it there, but we can get it there. So that's exciting. So
I think you were getting marring
dusting was on the last one, was dusting. So we started with one and we used like this hammered truck. And I just didn't feel like it was cutting fast enough. I'm not a big, first of all, I'm not in love with the polishing a car, really. It's
Yeah.
very boring to me. It's very annoying. And so because of that, I don't do like this slow arm speed thing. Like this sitting on a panel behind a buffer just forever is like really boring, right? And so I'm a fast arm speed kind of guy, right? I'm a rotary with wool and then finish it with the DA kind of guy, right? And so I just didn't feel like the first sample had enough cut for me. I felt like I was having to sit on it too long, and I don't want to do that, right? And so Tom goes, okay, well, I'm going to blow it out and just put the max amount of abrasive in it as possible. But when he did that, it created dust, right? It was a fine dust, but I don't want it to dust either, right? So it corrected really fast, but it dusted. And so it's like, okay, now the next video is going to be like, hey, we dialed it back down to see if we could get cut that was fast enough for me without dusting. And that's really what comes down to all products in the detailing industry. It's like a give and take. You know, do you want easy to use or do you want a lot of gloss? Do you want, you know, sun friendly and last forever? Or like what are your most you know, highest things you want out of a product, right? So I think we got it with a new sample and a video to come on that. But yeah, that's where it's at right now.
It's really interesting because you know, you asked that question like you said before, Jimbo, like why has no one done this before? Like, you know, and probably because they don't want to just sell one compound, they want to sell three, you know,
That's it.
and
That's it.
yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it. Why does, you know, and I asked Tom that question all the time because he knew Barry Maguire, still knows him today, and was trying to show Maguire's this technology back in the day, and they just weren't going for it. And I'm like, well, why? And he goes, part of it is I think they were selling to 3M at the time. He goes, but honestly, most companies, I mean, if you look at a company like Menzerna, all they do is polishes and compounds, right? So if you go to them and you say, hey, I could replace your whole entire line with one product, they'd be like, no, like absolutely not. That we cannot do that. You know, we cannot do that. We need to sell the heavy cut compound that is bad for your paint, that mars the paint, so that we could sell the final polish that, you know, removes the defects that you put in from our heavy cut, right? Or we need the all-in-one that has protection, and we need blah, blah. We need all this because then we could sell a liquid for every solution. Yes. Every problem has a solution with a liquid that costs you another $30.
Yeah.
You know, and what I'm saying is like, look, just like I don't have a caricature of myself. I'm not a liar. I'm not a jerk, right? Like I just tell it like it is. I'm really honest about that. I don't want to be someone who I'm not. Like the honest truth is it would be a lie for me to create 3 different products, 3 different compounds, right? It's just silly. It's not necessary unless you're trying to pad your pocket. And my opinion is that the long-term truth of it is people will be much happier with one product and switching up pads than they would be with 15 different liquids, you know, to buff out a car. It's just crazy, you know.
Are you trying to manufacture a pad as well to go with this polish?
So I'm talking with Rupes and Buff and Shine right now currently about, I will just have them manufacture the pad for me. Like the Oreo pad or the Eurofiber pad from Buff and Shine with 3D1 is my current go-to. So I'll probably start there with like a microfiber pad, and maybe have a finishing pad too. Ideally I would have a wool pad, like an old school rotary wool pad offering with a microfiber like that Eurofiber pad as kind of the general one step, and then have a finishing pad if you use the wool. Like that would be the 3 pad setup. But I think for the market I'm going for, it'll probably just start with like a microfiber cutting pad and the liquid itself. But I'm not going to dive deep into that pad world. Those guys, the door's still pretty closed tight on that. They're not too open to talking about, especially on camera, revealing their secrets with foam and how they cut the foam and, you know, where they get the foam and pad manufacturing and blah, blah, blah. So I'll probably just use kind of a standard offering for now, because the focus is on the liquid and developing the liquid, and the pads are interchangeable, you know?
Yeah.
No, I think that foam technology is quite interesting, apparently. Talking to Mr. Matty Gibb himself, he knows a fair bit
Yeah.
side of things.
Yeah.
So
Did he start his own pad company?
yeah, he calls himself the Pad King. So
The Pad King. That's right.
he's trying
Is
to
royalty.
yeah.
His road. Maybe I'll talk to him. I thought I saw that, and maybe I should reach out to him, and or maybe he'll probably be listening to this and reach out to me. But
He'll listen.
that might be interesting too. Yeah, and that's how. Again, this is how these podcasts go, right? And then it's like, oh yeah, I know Matt. Like, I should reach out to him, and maybe me and Matt hit it off and have a great conversation. And Matt starts talking about all this weird stuff that I didn't know about pads and how I'm all wrong about Eurofiber pad and how it's dangerous on the paint. And I'm like, wow, like okay, like let's see, let's try it, and then if I try it and it makes sense, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to bring this to the world. Like this is the truth, and that's exciting for me, of like telling the truth, bringing it to the world. And that's why I'm so glad I have a platform to do that, because it knocks out all the fluff in between, so
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on the detailing industry at the moment, especially from your side in America there? Any new products, or not really? Everything that's sort of been a bit quiet with new products.
I'm changing my messaging, so I'm trying to think of how to say this politically correct, or at least not make myself look like a jerk. I think there's a lot of brands out there that are trying to find their way and trying to find their audience. And I find myself doing that too with my own brand. I think, when you look at like innovation, and I worked with Turtle Wax on their global innovation team for 5 years, and innovation looks like a lot of different things. It could be liquid in the bottle, it could be the bottle itself, it could be packaging, it could be raw material technology. There's a lot of different ways you can innovate, and it's really hard to communicate that innovation out to the world. And so doing that effectively is another skill set. In a nutshell, bullishly, I've talked about going to SEMA, and SEMA being very boring because these product brands don't know how to innovate, and they really don't. I mean, that is the truth. They don't know how to innovate. Most brands don't, and so they look for stupid ways to innovate, like add a plus sign or an S or a version 2 or all the basic things, when you don't have anything to innovate, right? Oh, it's version 2 and now it's slicker and even easier to apply. And it's like, how is that innovation? You're not innovating anything. Like you literally changed the raw material. That's not innovation, right? So there, and truth be told, my focus is solely like my brand now, and kind of my ecosystem. So I haven't been paying too much attention to what's going on, especially with this deep dive into polishing. It's been like all consuming. But there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of trickery. There's a lot of marketing. There's a lot of BS out there. So, yeah.
So I know you used to get around to SEMA, MTE, what's that, Mobile Tech,
Yeah.
something. What would you recommend for a detailer that's been detailing for a few years? Or would you recommend even going to such an event? Because it is a lot more of an investment. It's, $1.5 grand worth of flights, or $1,000 worth of flights to get to the US, let alone to LA, to Vegas.
Mhm.
And I think MTE, that was in Orlando this year, wasn't it? Now it's going to be
Yeah.
somewhere else next year. Is that correct? Can't remember. But what's
Still
your
in
take
Orlando.
on still Orlando? Okay, cool. What's your take on those type of events? Like, because you've been to many, it's probably more of like, oh yeah, cool, I'm going there. But to some other people, it's like, oh my goodness.
I think it's good to go. Every time I've gone to a show, I've gotten something out of it. I think you have to go with intention of getting something out of it, though. And whether that's just networking with other people or finding a product brand that you want to align yourself with. I think where detailers get confused a lot of times is who's actually paying their bills. And I think they think other detailers are paying their bills and not their customers are paying their bills. So they're marketing and they pander to other detailers and really worry. And I'm guilty of this too, worrying about what other detailers think of their work instead of focusing on getting actual paying customers and what that looks like. So I'm not convinced that like going to, Mobile Tech Expo or going to SEMA is like going to get you more clients in, Adelaide, right? Or wherever,
Yes.
or in Sydney or whatever. I'm not sure. However, you may meet someone who you can, in your conversation, you get a little nugget of like, oh man, okay, I could bring that back home and that'll help. Like, oh man, my Google ads or this website builder, or like there usually is a little nugget that you can get
Mm.
out of all these shows that end up making it worth it. But you have to be disciplined when you're going to not get caught up in just the drinking and partying of it all, right? And that's what I think, at least, right? Because you could just get up, oh, we're just hanging with the bros, and then you're out all night in Vegas, and then you're stumbling through the show, and then you're fog brained, and all of a sudden you're there 5-6 days, and you come home and you're like, crap, all I have is a headache and a hangover and a badge, right? And it's like, what did I learn? Crap,
And a bag full of crap.
and a bag full of crap that doesn't do anything for your business. So I think it depends on what your goals are, right? I didn't go to SEMA or Mobile Tech this year because I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to get distracted from what I'm trying to do, right? And I think when you see some of these videos, it becomes a distraction of feeling like you're accomplishing something when you're really not accomplishing anything, you know?
Mm.
So I think, yeah, those are my thoughts.
That's
But
a
I
good
do
point.
always get something out of it, always do, usually, you know?
That's good.
So, yeah.
I like
Yeah.
the look of MTE. It looks a little bit more focused on the detailing car finishing kind of industry, where SEMA
Mhm.
is just everything to do with cars.
Yeah, I would say for you guys though, if you're coming from Australia, just go to SEMA. Don't bother with
Yeah.
MTE because MTE is just really small.
Yeah, right.
It's really small. It's only a 2-day show, and yeah,
Yeah.
and it's in Orlando, which is like the armpit of the U.S. It's like not that exciting to go there either. Not that I love Vegas, but at least you're getting a little more for your money.
Yeah, if that's the armpit, what's Vegas?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I don't
hell,
want to know. Let's not go
yeah,
there.
yeah. But at least you got options. Orlando, your options are limited.
Yeah, true. That's so
So,
good.
yeah,
Good to
So,
know.
yeah.
so how do you distribute your products? Are they just through your website, or are they in shops and stores in
Yep.
America?
For now, just through my website and through Amazon. I'm looking at adding on like Amazon Canada and kind of some distributors throughout Amazon. The truth is, and I don't know that this is like the nicest thing to say, I ship worldwide. It does get expensive with tariffs and stuff to like,
Yeah.
and just shipping costs. But the reality of the situation is of like even Canada, right? My neighbor to the north, it's like their population is 40 million people in the whole entire country. The population of just California is 40 million people, right? And so the US market is so massive,
Wow.
and I haven't even nailed the whole US market yet. So to, direct my efforts to like Canada, for an example, right? Or it's just like, even though they have 40 million people, it's like, it's so small compared to the US market, right? And so, uh, the harsh reality is that every market outside the US is very small, right? And so
Yeah.
I need to really nail the US market first before I worry about expanding too heavily outside the US market. So yeah, I mean, I ship every day internationally. I ship even down to you guys, New Zealand and Canada and Mexico, and
Really? Wow.
all over Turkey and all over the place, right? But it's where did one, South Africa? I mean, all over,
Holy moly.
right? And so that's cool, and it's expensive for people, and they complain every time, right? And I understand that it's expensive. I do like to say, even if it costs $70 for me to ship a box to Australia, it's like, how long that would take. It's an expensive flight for me to get to
Yeah.
Australia too, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's really hard. It's coming from Southern California all the way across the world, right? $70 is
Yeah.
actually pretty cheap in
That's
perspective,
right.
right? And so it is something that is on my radar, but there are just higher priorities on my radar than focusing that. So I know that's kind of hard to hear for some people. Probably, any Canadians are like, you don't understand how loyal we are. I know, I get it. I love Canadians too. But when I look at the just raw numbers, I'm like, it would be like, pausing all my operations just to focus on selling in California. And that would be,
Yeah.
that'd be leaving 49 other states out of it. And that would be a bad business decision currently, right? Maybe I can bring someone on to help me with that, or bring on a distributor to help with that. But as of now, I'm just shipping wherever, straight from my warehouse.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Joe?
Nah, mate, like we've covered so much. I
All
just
right.
want to say, yeah, like anyone listen to this, check out Auto Detailing podcast. There's so much good content there, so many good nuggets, and sometimes you're just not venting, but you're just giving us a real raw understanding of what you're going through and the decisions you got to make. And it's just like, whoa, okay, cool. Like that really helps me put my situation into perspective, and just the interviews you have with people are really, really good value. So make sure you check it out. And thanks for what you do, man. Like there must have been days you're ready to throw the mic in. Hey,
most days.
Today
like
was
when
one
you
of
ask, how's the detailing industry? I'm like, oh man, today or last week? Or I'm
yeah,
like, man, yeah. But I really try. It helps like to stay focused. First of all, it helps to have guys like you, right? That are just like fun-loving guys. It's fun to talk to. It's like very lighthearted, right? And then focusing on my customers too, of like, okay, that guy gets it. That guy sees it. It's like this detailer that's trying to like undercut me or play some political game to see like what, wants a sample of my polish because he wants to see what I'm coming out with. And really he's just going to use it to talk crap on me later. And, because he's funded by this other guy and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my God, those are the days that suck, right?
Yeah.
That you're like, oh, okay, that guy, wow, interesting. Like that, because I ship all the orders, right? And so it's like,
yes.
Oh, wow, interesting. This guy bought an order. Like, do I cancel it? Or no, because that might be better. Do I just fulfill it? I'll just fulfill it. And then, oh my gosh, he did a video talking crap on my product, but he's bought that same product 4 times. Like, so he must be using it, but then he's talking crap. Like, okay, and it's always a detailer, unfortunately. So
that's great.
I guess it just comes with the territory.
What a world.
Just
yeah,
weird,
that's right. That's right.
Just weird. And it's like, why? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many good people out there. There's so many like good dudes that just want to help each other and chit chat. And like, then there's also just scumbags that want to, for whatever reason, like tear everything down, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah, it's feel those getting around. Yeah.
There's a few of those getting around, but they get found out. They're never around for very long, right? They're like a shooting star. That's what I always remind myself. It's like a shooting star, super bright, it's fast, it's flashy. And then all of a sudden you can't see it anymore. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I've seen it too many times.
Actually, a really good analogy.
Yeah,
a
shooting
falling
stars.
Star.
Yeah, falling star. It's like it's so captivating. It's so amazing and magical and bright, and you're in awe and like, oh my God. And then it's like, wait, where'd it go? What happened to him?
And then you forget about it.
And then you forget, right? And that's the good thing about the internet is things cycle quickly. So it's like just weather the storm. Like the truth always prevails. I've been at this 10 years. I got like tons of access. I know people. I can lean on those people. Be like, dude, this guy's coming after me, or what did you do in this situation? Or how many years did it take till your product brand felt a little bit more stable and blah, 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 blah. And there's some, I'm tightening my circle around me. And it's really good when you have awesome people, because they're like, dude, don't worry about it. Like that guy's going to be gone in 12 months. Like just stick around, you're good. You're good. You've been in this forever, so, but yeah, weather in the storm.
No,
that's great.
That's awesome, Jimbo. So
yeah,
amazing, mate. Thanks for taking the time.
Got it, man. Thanks guys for having me.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So if anyone wants to reach out, how can they find you? Obviously you got YouTube, your podcast.
Yep. They could go to autodetailingpodcast.com. That kind of links to everything. If they want to check out the product brand, they could go to jimbosdetailing.com. If they're in the US, it's also on Amazon. But I do ship worldwide. But autodetailingpodcast.com is probably the easiest. And that can get you everywhere that I am on the internet.
No, we've been listening for many years, so it's cool to have you on ours. So
thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I don't take it for granted. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Dal. Thanks, Jimbo.
Thanks, Jimbo.
You're welcome.
And we'll
you got
talk
it
soon, guys. Cheers.
Cool.
See you guys.
Sounds good. See ya. Bye.
Yeah.
That was another episode of the Detailing Down Under podcast. Subscribe now for everything auto detailing in Australia.